House from nowhere. It was a sunny day, albeit showery, as the car negotiated the small lanes, overhanging branches and small white houses that Cromwell might have watched being built. Was he had liked Chester? Tony, the driver, had his elbow on the open window as he steered the car off the main road and took a small unadopted road leading to the canal. At the end of the short road, Tony had chosen not to park where two others had, with room for one more. Instead, he had taken a sharp turn onto the canal path, a shale path wide enough for a car, albeit just. He had driven slowly, obviously having driven there before, with his experience showing. Kevin, though, was unaware of his confidence in his abilities and eyed the distance between the side of the car and the large sandstone blocks that edged the canal with a distinct wariness. As they drove, he had been conscious of his heart stopping more than once as Tony had removed one hand or the other from the steering wheel to point out something of interest. For instance, he said, "Look." Tony had been pointing out the fact that many of these houses had their front door facing the canal. Big houses with a long path leading to a gate at the canal side. "Hate to be the postman," he opined with a smile. Now, Kevin thought, that I'll agree with. Still, Tony drove on, very slowly. And then the car stopped. It just stopped. While Tony checked the dashboard and turned the ignition on and off again, Kevin looked around at the canal they were too near to. Then glanced at the sign on the gates. Gold letters on a black background. Not big, but big enough for it to be legible. As the driver continued to get more flustered, Kevin couldn't help but grin. "Tony, we're stuck outside a house called Nowhere," he exclaimed. "Uh-huh," the driver acknowledged, dismissively. "Oh, come on, look," Kevin instructed, pointing to the gate. "We're stuck outside a house called Nowhere. Nowhere!" The driver was even more annoyed by such banality as he checked the car's systems. "So what?" he muttered to Kevin's irritation. He just didn't get it. "Well, it sounds like something out of a Hammer film, I'm telling you," he exclaimed. "Uh-huh," his friend responded distantly, quickly adding, "Does it really sound like I care?" Kevin considered the question for all of a second before saying, "No, but that's not the point, is it? We're outside of a house called Nowhere. It just sounds good saying it." Tony sighed a very long sigh. Mildly irritated, he thought of the engine that was probably flooded and needed to dry out. Then he recalled the pack of 6 just sitting there on the back seat in a cooler box. "Okay, you found this. Now what?" Kevin listened attentively. "You what?" he rejoined. Both had been preoccupied, so did not notice that briefly the house shimmered as if it were a mirage observed in a desert. "Oh, come on, Tone. Don't you think it sounds, well, interesting at least?" "Well," Kevin began, "wouldn't you like to find out who lives in a house called Nowhere?" "To be honest, no," his friend responded. "Well, oh, come on," Kevin enthused, accepting a can and pulling the ring. "It'll be fun." "Oh, whoopee," Tony retorted flatly as Kevin drank from his can, which she then sat on the floor before exiting the car himself. He approached the gate. He unlatched it and looked back to Tony, grinning. "Come on," he called as he began to walk down the long gravel path towards the house. "Come on, Anthony," with emphasis on each syllable. as he knew Tony didn't like it. "What?" his friend snapped, closing the car door as he stepped out. "Look," Kevin tells him, pointing to the sign he'd noticed. Tony followed Kevin, slowly. He closed the gate, muttering comments about his friend's birth. After all, they had provisions back in the car. He couldn't understand his friend's sudden obsession with learning who lived in this house. A house called Nowhere. Yeah.